Thank you very much. If there are no questions, yeah. If there are no questions, please we'll move to second.
Our next speaker is Thomas Killerman. You can start your presentation.
Yes, I try to share it.
Okay.
So, can you see my presentation now?
Yes,
I hope.
yes, we can see.
Yes, you
You
can see.
can continue.
Okay.
Thomas Lehman, no, Professor Lehman.
Okay.
Thomas Lehman, thermochemical conversion
Yes. Yes.
of ash-rich, agricultural residues in a gasifier CHP. So please start.
Okay. Thank you for having the possibility to present here at this interesting conference. As you already told, I'm presenting some results on the current project on thermal conversion of ash-rich agricultural residues in using a gasifier CHP. First, I would like to show an overview over this so-called gas ash project and the main goals. We have on the left side, if you look in the left side, you have ash-rich agricultural residues such as fermentation residues, but also we looked at rice husks. Both have ash contents roughly about 28%. And if you try to thermally atomize them, you have problems in one case with maybe ash melting or ash crystallization. And so we have to try to optimize the gasification step. And what we try to do here in this project is to use all products, not only the product gas, power and heat, but also look at the ashes if we can use them for value-added materials, for example. And also try to look at the exhaust gas of the CHP, if there are, what about the needs of emission reduction, what's the concepts. Here you see the plant of some of our project partners, Libro Energy. If you look from the left, there is the feed of the fuel, and then you have inclined pyrolysis. And after this, you have the oxidation and reduction part. So we separated both zones. This results in better gas quality, and there is no need to really have extensive gas cleaning afterwards. The product gas heats the pyrolysis zone, and after this, you have the CHP unit. We are three main partners. The one is the manufacturer, Libro Energy. Then my institution is the German Biomass Research Center, and also one University of Applied Science. And we do a lot of different, we have done and are underway are some investigations about all the aspects are already reported. For this presentation, I want to focus on three, fields of this project. First is to show examples of some value-added materials out of rice husk ashes. The second is to show the emission reduction and the emissions of this CHP plant. And the third is to show the developed concept, the gasifier concept for temperature flexible operation. This is the main goal, one of the main goals, to have a temperature flexible operation, to control the temperatures in order to have value-added possibilities for value-added materials out of these ashes, and also have no problems in how to gasify them, no ash melting, for example. Okay, if you look at rice husks and try to gasify them, you have some ashes and with variable carbon content, porosity, and if you can limit the temperatures, you can obtain them amorphous, then you can add extrusion and calcination, and then you end up with, if it's working with monolithic catalyst supports, and we have tried this, and to try to create porous, meso and macroporous monolithic catalysts. The result was that if we did vary the carbon content of the ash. If you have pure silica in the ashes, you can reach not that high porosity values, but the monoliths are much stable. So I think we succeeded in producing such value-added materials out of this rice husk ashes. This is one example of a value-added from this rice husk ashes. Then I will continue to the CHP exhaust gas. What you can see on this table is the exhaust gas emissions for 3 different fuels. We looked at wood chips as a reference, and then we added rice husks in this mixture, and also wood chips plus fermentation residues. And in the right column, you see the emission limits in Germany. And you see there is a need to reduce emissions. I have to say this is an older engine, GHP engine, but you have to really reduce the emissions, for example, carbon monoxide and nitric oxides at the main emissions to reduce. In the following, I will focus on those 2 emissions and show the concepts we are investigated. On the left side, you see the so-called selective catalytic reduction combined with an oxidation catalyst, where you use AdBlue and then ammonia to reduce the NOx emissions, and also with the combination of these catalysts, carbon monoxide and the volatiles. And on the right side, you see a 3-way catalyst, sometimes combined with oxidation catalyst, where you ideally have, if you operate at lambda equals 1, that you can reduce all 3 components, carbon monoxide and NOx, and also the hydrocarbons simultaneously. What was the outcome of our investigations? We did look at different catalysts and different operation conditions. What you see here for NOx on CO, if you look at the green, the left column, it's the SCR catalyst path. You see that you end up with quite low numbers for the emissions, quite good. CO is no problem in both cases, but the SCR catalyst system is a little bit better. But if we not only look at German, emission limits, maybe Switzerland or some other countries, you have much harder emission limits. And here we are not really, cannot say what's the path to go. And we think there's research needed. Then I will go on and show what we developed for this temperature flexible operation. If you have ash-rich agricultural residues, we started with this plant concept I showed here. You have the ionized water and exhaust gas-driven steam generator, and you feed the gasification agent, which is air, in the oxidation zone and also in the grate zone. And the final developed concept on the right, you see, we changed to a different concept. We does not need anymore all the components with border and no steam generator, etc. But we used exhaust gas recirculation, diluted the gasification agent towards the grate, and also did develop a new injector burner in the oxidation zone. And in combination, we did succeed in a much better performance, and I will show some results on the performance of this new setup. We did some experiments where we did measure different operational states. What you should see here, that all the states 2 and 4, we varied the exhaust gas recirculation and tried to see what's the consequence of this. For example, especially if there's a stable operation, still possible? And what about the temperatures in the great zone? What you see here is for 1 day, there's a reference operation, 1 day of operating with wood chips, and you see it's very stable operation possible, even if you switch to this increased exhaust gas recirculation, it's state 2. And if you change the fuel mixture with the ash-rich fermentation procedures, for example, you also see it's a stable operation. And if you switch to increased exhaust gas recirculation, state 4, it's again still stable. And now if you look at the temperatures, this was the main goal, to really have a parameter to influence the temperatures in the great zone. What you see here is if you look at the states 2 and 4, it's in both cases it's increased exhaust
Sir,
gas.
your allotted time is over. Please try to conclude
Yes.
soon.
You see that you can really lower the temperatures, and we was quite successful in it. I want to summarize. I think I could show that if we could improve stable operation, and the TAR approximately was very good. And then we had stable temperature for every fuel mixtures. Where we see some problems is still in the emission reduction for small scale gasifiers. Thank you for your attention.
Hello, sir. Am I audible?
Thank you.
Please raise your question. Any queries, please? Hello? Now Thomas is presented the work on agricultural residues. Please raise few questions. Hello?
Sir, looks like nobody has any question. Shall we move on to the
Okay.
next speaker?
Yeah,
thank
Jayalakshmi
you.
SJ.
Thank you.
Okay, if there are no questions, I think the topic is very good. I think it's a very interesting topic. I think you all know that the agricultural residue, now it is the large quantity of agricultural residues are producing in agricultural fields. So this is what is called as a new technology, which we have to consider that in future, in order to avoid the wastage of the agricultural waste, this can be one of the best technology which we can make use for recycling of waste. I think this is a very good presentation. Thank you, Dr. Thomas. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hello.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes, madam.
Good afternoon to all. My name
Gopal. Yeah.
Okay. My name is Jayalakshmi SJ. I completed my BTech from APJ Abdul Kalam University, Kerala, and currently I'm doing MTech at NIT Calicut. Our topic is wastewater for renewable energy production, perspectives of biohydrogen, a review. Co-authors are Ms. Jetsi Elizabeth Philip, Ms. Priya Venugopal, Dr. Asha P. Tom. Okay.
Yeah. And start, madam, please.
Next. Okay. We all know that climate change has become a global concern over the last few decades. And this climate change are having various impact on our ecosystem. The main reason for this alarming climate change is due to the increase in greenhouse gases. This is a supercomputer model provided by NASA, which show high concentration of greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide. The higher concentration is shown in red color. Okay. The main source of these greenhouse gases is from fossil fuel, which is our prime source of energy. Since it is a non-renewable source, we cannot depend highly on them for our future need. All these reasons force us to try an alternative way of producing energy. The high fuel efficiency, that is up to 122 kilojoule per gram, and non-polluting nature of hydrogen make it a favorable source of energy. There are different hydrogen production methods available, but the biohydrogen production is found to be a sustainable option. Since increase in population result in more wastewater, biohydrogen production from them found to be a reliable mean to achieve sustainability. Okay, next. So these are the objectives and methodologies of our paper. This is a diagrammatic representation of methodology. Next. Now let's briefly see the conventional biohydrogen production methods. The first one is dark fermentation. It is the most common method which uses anaerobic microorganism which produces hydrogen in the absence of light. Okay. Next, photofermentation. It is the hydrogen production in the presence of light. Next, sequential dark fermentation. Here, both dark and photofermentation is employed to increase the hydrogen production. Biophotolysis, it can be direct or indirect. In direct photolysis, the solar energy is directly converted to hydrogen. And next, the indirect photolysis, there are multiple stages involved in converting solar energy to hydrogen. Hello, can I continue?
Yes, please continue.
Photocatalytic biohydrogen. Photocatalysts are used to produce hydrogen and oxygen by splitting water. Next, microbial electrolysis cell. It produces hydrogen by decomposition of organic compounds with the help of microorganism. Next. Okay, these are the advantages and disadvantages of above mentioned method. The main disadvantage of all this method is lower hydrogen production efficiency. Next. Okay, so for the improvement of hydrogen production efficiency, we need technological advancement. Here we have the latest technologies such as microalgae assisted biophotolysis, nano-engineered dark fermentation, and photocatalyst biohydrogen production. Okay, then the first one is microalgae assisted biophotolysis. The light absorbed by the microalgae enhance oxidation of H2O molecule by photosystem 2 and release electron and proton, and they are transported to the chloroplast ferredoxin via photosystem 1. Reduced ferredoxin acts as an electron donor to FeFe hydrogenase, which reversibly facilitate the reduction of H plus to H2. Next. So the main limitation that found in that FeFe hydrogenase is extremely sensitive to oxygen, which can be controlled by prospecting, random mutagenesis, or even molecular engineering of hydrogenase. Next. Next. nano-engineered dark fermentation. As mentioned earlier, hydrogen production rate is very less in dark fermentation. And the main reason is that as the hydrogen concentration increases, a metabolic shift is observed for the production of producing substrate like lactate, ethanol, acetone, butanol, etc., and eventually leads to reduced hydrogen production. This could be overcome by using a nanoparticle by enhancing the activity of key biohydrogen production enzyme such as hydrogenase. They also tend to participate in utilization of feedstock for improving hydrogen production. Next. So the efficiency of hydrogen production yield depend upon the nanomaterial used as well as the type of microorganism that can be seen from the next from this table. Okay, next. Okay, we have already said about conventional photocatalyst. Now, the latest technological options available include first one, nano composite of manganese oxide, decorated activated carbon. Second one, biomass activated carbon, decorated cobalt oxide, nano composites. Next. So the first one, MNO-AC. They show high efficiency in hydrogen production, that is up to 395 milliliter per hour. The conventional photocatalyst shows drawbacks in water splitting due to its absorption of visible light and band gap variation, which can be overcome by the use of MNO with activated carbon. The mechanism of photocatalytic hydrogen production using MNO-AC from sulfuric wastewater can be understood from the diagram. Due to the sunlight, electron jump from the valence band to the conduction band, leaving holes, and these electrons and holes helps in the hydrogen production. Okay, next one is CO3O4AC. These nano components also show high hydrogen production capacity compared to conventional method. It is seen that an initial hydrogen production rate of 70 milliliter per hour can be achieved. The incorporated activated carbon will help promoting the photocarrier transport in CO3O4AC, hence H2 production rate will be enhanced. Conclusion. The introduction of biohydrogen as a fuel could be our first step towards a sustainable, eco-friendly future. Various studies shows that conventional methods have lesser efficiency in biohydrogen production. The latest technological trends for biohydrogen has revealed the importance of future perspective of biohydrogen. In case of microalgae assisted biohydrogen production, chlorella species strains show the best result. Since this method does not involve production of greenhouse gases, it is an eco-friendly method. But the applicability of this in the commercial level is still unknown. In case of nano-engineered cellulose biohydrogen by dark fermentation, an yield of 230% were able to obtain. Their main advantage is that only low quantity is required. But the main disadvantage is that it is hazardous and expensive. Among the advanced photocatalysts, MNO-AC nanocomposites show high hydrogen production, that is up to 395 milliliter per hour. Similarly, CO3O4 AC show an enhanced H2 production efficiency of 70 milliliter per hour. Still, we need to have more research in this field so that we can develop a solution to the fuel scarcity and pollution-related environmental issues like climate changes. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Priya. Very nice presentation. I really, yeah. Please, sir. Hello.
Yeah, Naran.
Yeah. So, Priya, your presentation is very good, very nice, and very important work you have carried out, particularly on sustainable, eco-friendly method, particularly on wastewater management. So, this wastewater can be sustainably utilized for the production of renewable energy. Of course, I think this is what new type of work which you have carried out. It's a very outcome of the solution is also concluded very well. I think any questions in this field of research, please, I request the audience, please. Hope no questions, please, we'll move to the other presentations.
Professor Narayana.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Narayana.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
I can see two persons. Prashant.
Yeah.
Mr. Prashant.
Prashant.
Mishra. No, not Mr. Mishra. Are you here? Yeah. Prashant is from IOC, right? Yes,
Prashant.
Yes, sir.
Mishra
Hi,
is
sir.
from IOCL, right?
Yes, sir. I am
Yeah.
Prashant Mishra.
How long will be there in this session?
Maybe, sir, half an hour.
Okay, half an hour. And I can see Travelzy. Ida, how much time?
Good
will you
morning,
be-
Professor.
Yeah, good morning. How much time will you be here? Because-
5 minutes.
Huh?
5 minutes, not more. 5 minutes.
All
Acha,
right. So no, I was in search of a co-chair with Mr. Narayan, Professor Narayanan. So, however, it's all right. Go ahead, Professor Narayanan.
Yeah. If there are no questions, shall we move, sir?
Yes, sure.
Yeah, please, sir. Please, sir. So you'll move to other person presentations.
Who is the next presenter?
Yes, E. Paramaswari.
Yeah, she is.
Yes, sir, I'm here only. Sir, shall I start my presentation?
Yeah. Please, madam. You can start, madam. Start.
Okay. Sir, I will share my screen.
Please share your slides.
Madam, please share your PPT.
Yeah, sir, I'm sharing. Sir, is my screen is visible, sir?
Yeah. Now it is showing. Yeah.
Sir, very good afternoon to one and all present here. I am Parameshwari, assistant professor in Tamil Nadu Agriculture University, Coimbatore. I am going to present my research topic about the
Ma'am, please open your PPT.
PPT not yet open.
Sir, is it visible now, sir?
No, madam, not yet.
Not visible.
Close it and try again. Close it and try again.
Is it visible now, sir?
Still no, madam.
Yeah.
Yeah, now okay.
How is it visible?
Yeah.
Make a full screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. My research topic is the hydrothermal carbonization of sewage sludge.
From Parameshwari, go to the slideshow and make it full screen.
So now it's full screen only.
All right, go ahead. Once again, make a presentation.
In India, the sewage sludge is produced approximately 2000 tons per day. Mostly it is utilized for the land application because of its higher nutrient content. But the problem here is the heavy metals. It leads to the food chain contamination. The another option is also incineration also followed in some of the sewage treatment plants. But again, here the release of toxic pollutants in the atmosphere. So the present study has been planned to produce the hydrochar from the sewage sludge to assess its energy potential. So coming to the objectives, my objectives of the study is the preparation, synthesis and the characterization of the hydrochar from the sewage treatment plant sludge. From that hydrochar, I have tested the efficiency of that hydrochar along with the commercial coal. So in the first phase of my study, I have collected and characterized the urban sewage treatment plant sludge. All the physicochemical and the biological properties has been characterized. Then I have produced the hydrochar by having optimizing the different levels of temperature and the time. The time duration from the 1 hour to 4 and the 6 hours, and the temperature ranged from 180, 200, 220 and the 240 degrees Celsius. This has been also verified through the response surface methodology software. This is the reactor I have utilized to produce the hydrochar through the hydrothermal carbonization process. This is the raw sewage sludge, and this picture indicates the hydrochar which is produced through the HTC process. This table shows that the characterization of the sewage sludge, which had the acidic pH and the high electrical conductivity and also considerable amount of heavy metals. Then coming to the energy point, it has a higher heating value of 16.24, then energy densification of 1.02.
Excuse me, madam, your slides, please move slides. No, I think slides is not
Moving now.
Yeah. Now okay now.
Okay. This is about the sewage treatment plant sludge characterization. Then this table shows about the characteristics of the hydrochar. This hydrochar also had the acidic pH of 5.25 and the EC has been increased through the HTC process up to 4.25, and this was the sum of the heavy metals. Then the sewage sludge yielded the hydrochar around the 70%. So this can be utilized for the any application. And compared to the sewage sludge, here higher heating value has been increased up to 20%. Here energy yield is 75% of that hydrochar. Then this is the some of the surface morphology about the hydrochar. Here it had the higher bed surface area of 3.64 and higher point of zero charge about the 7.3. And this picture shows about the scanning electron microgram of that sewage sludge and the hydrochar. This hydrochar has been formed from a pore surface as compared to the smoother surface in the sludge. These rugged surface formations were clearly visible from the micrographs, wherein the size reductions of particles from 3.806 micrometer to the 496 nanometer in the hydrochar. This picture shows about the transmission electron microgram of the sludge and the hydrochar. Here, this microgram portrays the formation of microspheres after the hydrothermal carbonization process. These microspheres were formed at the diameter ranging from 31.1 nanometer to the 49.2 nanometer, which was found to be an intensive size reduction than that of the precursor of the sewage sludge. Then this picture shows about the Fourier transform infrared spectra of the sewage sludge and the hydrochar. This black line indicates that the sewage sludge functional groups, and the red line indicates that the functional groups which are all available in the hydrochar. These are all the some of the phenolic groups, aliphatic groups, amino acids, amide groups, and alcohols are presented. This will indicate that this has the enormous potential for the absorption of pollutants. In the next phase, I have assessed the energy efficiency of the hydrochar. For that, the different combinations has been prepared by using the commercially available coal. This combustion ability, that means the co-combustion compatibility of this hydrochar along with the coal, has been assessed by using the thermogravimetric investigation. This thermogravimetric investigation tells about that the blend's 100% coal, that will give you the 29.112 megajoules. That means the highest energy calorific value in the coal. When it is blended with the different combination of the hydrochar, even the 50% hydrochar plus 50% coal itself produced 23.158 megajoules per kg. So this will be the better blend when compared to other blends, as coal is the costliest one. So if you are mixing with 50% plus 50% hydrochar, means it will reduce the huge quantity of cost for the industrial applications. Then this picture tells about that effectiveness of co-computation that will be assessed through the gravimetric analysis, wherein the weight loss that is due to the increase in temperature was determined by using the simultaneous thermogravimetric and differential scanning calorimetry. Here, combustion behavior of hydrochar significantly changed after the hydrothermal carbonization. In the first process, the weight loss was occurred because of the loss of weight and in the conversion of long chain aliphatic compounds. In the second process, in the second stage, the weight loss occurred mainly through the volatilization of organic compounds into the combustion gases. That takes place around 200 to 300 degrees Celsius. This phase was the 200 to 300 degrees Celsius. This was the rapid, such that the slope falls exponentially compared to that of the other phases. Here, around 25% weight loss was attained in this gradual phase. The fourth and the final phase of combustion, above the 750 degrees Celsius, indicated the combustion of inorganic portion of the sludge and the hydrochar samples. In other words, these materials correspond to the ash content of the sludge and the hydrochar sample, beyond which there won't be any further weight loss has been noticed. So finally, I conclude that the hydrochar production from the sewage sludge was optimized. The parameters like the temperature at 200 degrees Celsius for the reaction duration of 6 hours will yield the potential hydrochar from sewage sludge, and the higher heating value of the hydrochar, that is 19.41 megajoules per kg, confirms the energy densification due to the hydrothermal carbonization process, and the blend which indicates the 90% coal plus 10% hydrochar, which has the higher heating value, but this cannot be utilized practically when compared with the other blends, because these 50% coal plus 50% hydrochar also have the 23.16 megajoules per kg. So this percentage, 50 plus 50 percentage, can be practically utilized for the energy production when compared to mere coal alone utilized. This will reduce the production cost at the industrial level. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Now, Dr. E. Parameshwari has presented her research work on hydrothermal carbonization of sewage sludge and its energy potential. Very good presentation and very informative, and lot of work she has carried out. And Madam, I have one clarification regarding this. Shall I, Madam?
Yes, sir. Audible, sir.
I think maybe this sewage sludge is also one of the resource for the conversion of energy. But in addition to that, why you use coal, even though now there is a non-renewable energy resource? It is also one of the carbon emitter. I think it is.
Yeah, of course, sir. Because coal we cannot completely depend on it. So I have tried with the different blends. Here we are using sewage sludge, means here we cannot able to get the maximum value as the energy potential, because any material can be utilized as a energy source when it's the higher heating value is more than 20. Mere sewage sludge alone utilized means we cannot able to achieve that stage.
Of course, yeah. Of course, I think the additional substitution is also required.
Yes, sir.
Maybe in addition to that, maybe we can use some of the agricultural waste residues. Maybe in that way, maybe more sustainable. I think.
Yes, sir,
It is
that
my
also can be tried.
Yeah,
That will
yeah, yeah,
also be a better option to reduce
yeah, yeah,
dependency of the non-renewable resources.
yeah, yeah. So, if there are any questions, sir, related to
Yes,
this,
please. I have a question, if it is
yeah,
possible.
please. Yeah, please, madam.
So, if I understand, for your objective is to produce an hydrochar from sewage sludge. And in this case, the problem is in the mineral or the polluant, inorganic polluant, which are in the raw feedstock, which is the sewage sludge. Will find these polluant in the hydrochar, which will be used as a fertilizer. That's that's the.
Madam, Dr. Ishwari, please.
Excuse me.
Madam,
Okay.
I have produced the hydrochar, that is the hydrothermal carbonization process. I have produced. This sewage sludge has been converted. Then I have assessed the energy potential. So the nutritive value of the sewage sludge remains same. There won't be any problem on that. The organic portion of that sewage sludge has been converted into the hydrochar. From that, I have assessed the energy efficiency of that material.
Okay, so your purpose with the application of hydrochar is the energy, not the fertilization.
Madam, I can't get you, ma'am.
The application, the next application of the hydrochar will be the energy purpose, not for soil amendment.
Ma'am, soil amendment also we can utilize because it has many potential of nutritive value also there. So this hydrochar can also be utilized as a soil amendment. Not only for the energy potential, it can also utilized as a amendment.
If there is without coal, I think, isn't it?
Without coal, yes, sir, yes, sir. Once it is, the hydrochar is produced directly, we can utilize it as a soil amendment.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Sir,
you.
next. May I go for next presenter?
Yes, the next presenter is Valmiki Rangachar Srinivasa. Sir, please share your screen.
Valmiki Rangachar Srinivas. Can you share your presentation? Slides, please.
I think you are muted, sir.
Mine? No.
No, sir. No.
I think
Valmiki, sir.
Valmiki, yeah.
And Narayan, sir, I have sent you the rating.
Yeah, that I received, sir. When you want, sir, it is now only you need now only you need or later?
No. After later.
Later. Okay,
Yes.
no problem.
Yes, sir. I can talk, sir, now.
Yeah. Please.
So I don't
Can you
have
share
any
your slides?
I don't have any slides, sir, PPT, sir. I will only talk, sir. That's all.
Okay, very nice.
I am
Please.
doing through a mobile.
Yeah.
So,
Still, it's good.
so first, namaste to everyone. So, what is this? The subject is waste to wealth, and the popular words that are being now floated in the country is called as Kachada se Kanchan. And this is the method of Kachada se Kanchan, which we have been doing it since 20 years. And we didn't knew that when we developed this, we didn't know that this is such a big problem all over the world. But we developed because we were given a challenge to convert a tea garden into an organic garden. And tea gardens are too huge. And first I was given about 100 hectares. And I was asked to convert into an organic tea garden. So we found that this waste kachada, what people call as kachada, this is the only input which can control all the problems of agriculture. Here in this agriculture, we didn't make compost, we didn't buy anything from outside, no neem, no vermicompost, nothing. And this method has been mentioned in a very ancient Ayurvedic text. Perhaps our people may not be even aware of it. It was published first in 1935 in English. That text is called as Vriksha Ayurveda. That means Ayurvedic treatment for plants. So this book calls one medicine called as Kunapa Jala. It is made out of meat of any animal, including the cow. Then when we started it, we could not do all these things as mentioned in the book. So then we tried to do our own method, and then we landed in this so-called waste of slaughterhouses, industrial waste, you talk any waste. And we use this dairy waste, what they call it as way water. All these things we used in huge quantities. 100 hectares tea garden means not a small extent of land. And we found that all these waste we converted as per the method mentioned in Vriksha Ayurveda. And because of our experience in Ayurvedic medicine preparation, it was very easy for us to develop this method. And we developed somewhere in year of 2000 to 2004. And when we developed this in 2004, we implemented it on this large-scale organic tea garden in the Northeast, in a place which is still unknown to my people, Arunachal Pradesh. And when we did this, we found that all this so-called pollution, it is causing problems to the people, and it is used as a medicine by us. It was surprising for me myself, and for all our team members, it was surprising. And then we started, what is this? Then we found that the so-called waste or pollution are very easy to be converted into useful products in simple method. In many cases, pollution itself is a product, utility product. In most cases, pollution itself becomes an Ayurvedic medicine for plants. Such a use of so-called pollution have been time tested by us for about 20 years. For example, slaughterhouse waste is let into the environment, and many cities are now famous for the air, underground pollution, underground water pollution, river pollution. We have converted this pollution into Ayurvedic medicine at source itself. So when this method is adopted on a large scale for the country or the world, having decentralized units, this will totally stop or not make the pollution to be present at all. This where now the current industries or whatever you call it as, they are letting it to the environment, either treated or untreated. It is polluting the rivers and the underground and the air. For example, Delhi pollution, air pollution is because of Yamuna pollution. Yamuna is totally polluted. If Yamuna is not polluted, if we can stop that, what these industries, others are letting it to Yamuna, we can convert that into utility product and use it in wherever we can use. The one first place is the agriculture, which I have tested. To a large extent, since 20 years I have been doing it. I have been doing it various places where people ask me to convert their agriculture to organic. I am preparing it, using it. And we are getting high quality product. Whatever this BOD, COD, TOC, these are all has no place for us. In fact, here the definitions of BOD, COD, we are making a use of that BOD, COD. Because plants do not need oxygen. And TOC is the most essential input for Indian agriculture. The entire Indian soil is short of TOC, total organic carbon. It is giving TOC, and BOD is of no use for a plant. Plant do not need use. And any insect that needs oxygen to live. And when once we use this, where the situation becomes inefficient for plant to survive. So this comes in this double advantage or triple advantage. And here, what we have done is, we have used all. For example, every city is today polluted in the world.
So PPT is not same.
Even the village is polluted. Today, what people are doing is, I have heard in many places, the slaughterhouse waste are put in the, what is that? They call it as soil dumping.
Excuse me, Mr. Deva. Excuse me, Mr. Deva. You are really pointing out the crux of the situation, and what you are making comments, these are all right comments. So what we will do is, because you know that there are 4 presentations still left, so let us first go ahead with the presentations, because they are all researchers, they need presentation also, and we have to know. So at the end of this session,
We'll have a
discussion. Okay. Thank you,
Yeah.
Mr. Deva. So
I will do it. I will
Yeah,
conclude it
please.
right now. We will have it later.
Yeah.
please. So
Please
Narayan, please go ahead with the presentation first.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they will cry.
Yeah. I know that. I know that they will cry. I know that.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
Yeah.
I
Because-
will back by about
They
250.
spent a lot of time for preparation, no?
Please conclude, sir. Please conclude, sir.
Okay.
Yeah,
I will
please,
be back by
go ahead.
2:15. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Please conclude, sir, your points.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is the only thing.
Yeah.
If this methodology is used in the whole world, there will be no pollution.
No, sir. Ranga.
Yes, Valmiki, tell me.
Sir, Valmiki, what is the methodology? I think you have not mentioned.
See, methodology is, I will tell you, when the industry is producing this pollution, on the spot itself, we convert that into utility product, especially for agriculture.
Okay.
And when one is used, what happens is the double benefit. One is the pollution is stopped. Second one is the agriculture. Whole India can be converted into organic.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you. And then we'll go for further
Please.
presentation. Thank you very much. Thank you very
you.
much for your
I will have it. I'll come at 2:15.
concern about waste management. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes, Sadan Kumarji, you want to tell something?
Please go for next presentation.
Yes, sir. Namaste, sir. Namaste. Good.
Yeah.
Our next speaker is Maya Pitts Khilauri. Is she present?
Yeah, I saw her. Maya from Georgia. Maya, are you here? She was there.
Yeah.
No, we can't see her. So we can go ahead with others. Well, she come, you can invite her again. All right.
Okay, sir. The next speaker is Khalilur Rahman Diwan. Are you present?
Yeah.
Yeah, Sarang Dev is present. Who else? So whoever is present, please go ahead with the presentation. Sarang Dev. Yeah. So Professor Narayan. So
Yes, sir.
go ahead with whoever are here. Muhammad
Yeah.
Islam is there and Saraul Haq is there.
I think whoever is there can ask them to join, sir.
Please.
What?
We can see Sarang Dev is here. So please start your presentation with an introduction of yours.
Sir, first of all, I extend my heartful thanks to provide me an opportunity to present my review paper here.
Go to slides, sir. Go to slides.
Yes, sir. I need to confirm that is my screen visible to all of you?
Yes.
Yeah. Can you show me the title?
Yes, sir. Wait, sir. Okay, sir. First of all, I extend my heartful thanks to provide me an opportunity to present here for my review study on the use of geospatial sciences and multi-criteria analysis methods in the site selection of solar PV stations and its applications in SWM. And sir, currently I'm pursuing my PhD in IIT Delhi under the supervision of Professor V.K. Vijay, sir. So coming towards the introduction of the paper, first of all, with the advent of the 21st century, the world has seen tectonic strides in the realm of technology and quality of life of a normal human being. Today's fast population growth and modernization have led to the expense of the global energy demands to an unprecedented levels in recent years. Besides this, since the industrial revolution, we can see all of the humankind's energy demand have been met by the fossil fuels which has led to the greenhouse gases emissions from the past 2 centuries, and eventually it has led to the erratic temperature rise and the different behavior of our mother nature. So in current times, considering the imminent threat of the change in world climate and satiating such SDGs, nations are switching to utilize the renewable sources, and in which the solar is leading the pack. Now, coming towards the India's energy scenario, the first question here arises is why energy has become so critical component for our society. The answer lies here is the demand for the energy and related services is rising day to day on a daily basis for meeting our higher standards of health, socio-economic status, and the life quality standards. Now, in context of the global energy economy, India is definitely a big power. Since 2000, energy consumption has more than quadrupled due to the stark population explosion, and ready for the biggest economic expansion that our planet has ever witnessed. And I gave this credit, this line to the International Energy Agency, which they wrote this line in the current report. Beside this, it also cites that in 2019, in India, 900 million citizens acquired access to the electricity, making it the very first time in more than 2 decades that everyone in their home had power. Now, credits to the data of the Ministry of Power. As we can see in the table, the main problem in our country lies in the use of the fossil fuels. As we can see here, more than about 60% of the generation capacity installed in our country comes from the fossil fuels, mainly the coal and lignite type in power generation plants. Now, coming what is the way forward for us? So, as a country, we face a twin challenge in terms of sustaining the economic growth as well as dealing with the rising energy consumption. And apart from this, we have to also address the global concern of the climate change. Now, to sort this out, renewable energy sources plays a vital role in all this aspect. Since climate change poses a comparable concern with climatic events escalating in severity and consequence, solar energy is a pollution-free renewable resource, and sun-based power is gaining grounds in most developed countries, topping the list of importance. Now, here comes a basic solar system flow diagram in which we can see the PV modules, which basically comprises of the silicon cells. They convert the sunlight via the photoelectric effect in the daytime, and they convert into energy, and we can utilize it. Particularly in my state of Rajasthan, the rooftop solar based systems are widely used nowadays. Coming towards the main idea of why there was a need to do these studies that I did was, first of all, we need to consider the benefits for identifying the land for solar power plants. First of all, it helps in optimizing the transmission planning. It also boosts the stability of the solar power market. Besides, it helps in protecting the environment-sensitive lands. And it also finds its application in development of master plans for future solar perspectives. And coming towards the solid waste management technologies, we can classify the whole area in broad 2 categories. Like, first of all, the biological treatment, and then the thermal treatment. And not to mention, the solar energy widely finds its application throughout the world in the thermal treatment of the waste management processes. Now, what is the need of this study? So basically, this one is statement that energy choices of our country matter. It sums up why there was a need to do a review study on these topics. First of all, it's crucial to achieve the SDGs in tandem with economic growth. Then use of renewables, most importantly, solar.
Saranga, better you go to research results, no? I think.
Yes, sir. So basically, it was a review paper, sir. So
it is a review paper.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So basically, my presentation is more of a theoretical one.
Okay.
So in conclusion, the study reviews the past studies conducted for site selection of PV stations using GIS and multi-criteria analysis methods across the globe. Moreover, the paper also reflects the uses of solar energy in thermal applications of the solar waste management. Like, for example, in 2008, in the Grandia Plateau near Andalusia, by taking into account the calculation based on AHP and geospatial techniques of GIS, most useful sites were found to facilitate the solar plant setups. Moreover, in 2010, a study was conducted in Oman to elaborate on the future prospects of solar using the ArcMap and the GIS environment. Same year, besides the whole technique of fuzzy FLOA, Topsis method, GIS environment, AHP, fuzzy AHP are also used in different aspects, like wind-based solar projects in Colorado were modeled using a multi-criteria GIS also. So these are basically different studies conducted, and I have reviewed it till the recent years of 2020-21. Like for example, multi-criteria analysis methods and GIS were incorporated in different regions across the globe, like Kanakala province in Turkey, Mongolia, Kuwait, Indonesia, United States, for site suitability analysis of solar PV farms. These studies basically helps to bolster the policies and the strategies on environment pertinent to particular nation. Besides, the studies also reflect the potential electric generation in particular areas and helps to set the solar farms by providing a model. So, sir, basically, this is my original work, which I did in my master's studies at Asian Institute of Technology, Bangkok, under the guidance of Professor Nitin Kumar Tripathi. Basically, in this, my master thesis, I collaborated with ISRO, and thanks to ISRO, I got the data through them, and I did a site suitability analysis of the Jodhpur district in the state of Rajasthan for setting up the solar PV stations, and the results were very satiating. Like for example, we got these final results, and we distributed the whole Jodhpur district in 5 different categories, and as we can find that the Bhadla Solar Power Park, which is currently being developed as one of the world's largest solar park, it basically comes under what our studies findings, like very highly suitable areas. So in a way, what I'm trying to say, like this is basically a very good method to provide us a solution from the orthodox method of doing the surveys, going for land acquisitions, and wasting a lot of time, human resource, and power. Now, coming towards the hierarchical model of the ideas of waste management, basically we can divide, basically these have 5 main pillars: prevention, minimizing, reuse and recycle, energy recovery and disposal. And as we can see from the diagram, the prevention comes at
Sir, your allotted time is over. You have 1 minute to conclude. Thank you.
Okay, sir. So basically, I will conclude my study, sir. The study reviews the ICT-driven approach of finding a suitable location of solar PV programs with the help of GIS and different methods of MCA, such as AHP, fuzzy AHP, Topsis method, and prospect theory, etc. Eventually, the study also reflects the advantages of digital technology-driven approach in the era of Digital India campaign to bolster the solar industry by providing a novel method to identify the locations throughout the country. Besides, the study also highlights the application of geospatial sciences and MCA in locating optimum sites of wind show technologies also. So this provides a way forward to utilize the approach for other types of renewables also. The review also study also takes into account the ways by which all the stakeholders such as planners, national agencies, central and state government authorities can take care of energy management and planning issues and promote the use of the renewables in the form of solar to meet the SDGs and mitigate climate change. In addition to these, the study takes into account the role of solar energy in solid waste management technologies, which find its uses in thermal applications of waste management.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you. Thank you.
I could convey my information up to my level.
Thank you, Sharmaji, for your good presentation. And I think this is the area which is a lot of challenges is there. I think we have to take care of. I think this is a very good presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Sir, next
our next presenter is M. Shiva. M. Shiva, are you present? I think he is not here. Then next is N. Munilakshmi.
Yeah, present, sir.
Yeah, you share your screen and start your presentation.
Okay.
Start, madam.
Yeah, just sharing. Sir, are you able to see
Yeah. You are, I think directly it is saying results and discussion. Go to
I will move to first. Are you able to see, sir?
Yeah. Physical, chemical characteristics, isn't it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Characteristics of residential solid waste and energy recovery. Yeah.
Yes, sir. So, respected Sadhan sir and other co-chairs persons, Professor, I didn't remember names, sir. Respected good afternoon to one and all, and co-participants, and also the organizers of this particular international conference. So, thank you for giving me this opportunity to present here. So, I am Dr. Munilakshmi, working as assistant professor in SU University, so Tirupati. So, I am very happy to present my presentation on physical chemical characteristics of residential solid waste and energy recovery from combustible solid waste, a case study. So, that is with respect to the quarters that is present in SU University. From that, actually, the solid waste was collected, and it is analyzed for physical characteristics and also chemical characteristics, and also how much energy that can be recovered from that particular sample, so was studied. So these are the various contents that I would likely to present in this particular paper presentation. Preamble, that is introduction, objectives of this study, methodology, results and discussion, conclusions. So when it comes to the introduction, municipal solid waste generally includes all the waste that is coming out from commercial and also residential houses, which is generating in a municipal body. So it may be in the form of solid or semi-solid. So it may exclude the industrial hazardous waste. So these are the various sources of the solid waste, sources of the areas from which actually the solid waste will be generated. That is residential, industrial, commercial, institutional, constructional, etc. So example, food waste is the one of the waste that will be generated from this particular residential area. And also construction demolition waste, hazardous waste are the examples that will be generated from the industrial area, like that. So when solid waste is not properly managed, it may lead to the water pollution, air pollution, and it may lead to the infectious and communicable diseases. And also obviously fly nuisance will be there. Water pollution may lead to waterborne diseases, cholera, dysentery in such a fashion. So solid waste, if it is accumulated anywhere, so it may lead to health hazard. So it definitely favors the flies and also the rats. It may lead to sometime plague, which happened in Surat. So these are the various health hazards that likely to get because of mismanagement.
Madam, better go to direct your results, no? I think you are.
Yeah, sir. I will go to the objectives. Objectives of the study are to collect the solid waste from quarters that is located in SU University, and to find the per capita waste that is generating from that particular area, to analyze the physical characteristics of the solid waste that is generated from the quarters of SU University. So, and also to analyze the chemical characteristics of the solid waste that is generated from the quarters of SU University, to find a calorific value from different combustible components of solid waste that is generated from the SU University quarters. These quarters is generally used for the employees to reside around the locality of that particular SU University. And methodology that was employed here are samples from different 20 selected houses was taken. So especially on Monday, Thursday, and also on holiday, in order to know how the characteristics will be on holiday in such a fashion. So as to correct, in order to get the value correctly, so average of the particular samples values were taken. So by means of analyzing physical characteristics and also chemical characteristics and also energy content. And per capita waste generation was calculated. So physical analysis was carried out by means of using weighing method. Chemical analysis were carried out by means of using titrometric method and also by means of using spectrophotometer. Energy content was determined by means of using bomb calorimeter, and average values of all those was taken. So when it comes to results and discussion here, per capita waste that is generating from the SU University quarters was calculated as 0.30 kg per day. So that is 8.9 kg from 30 persons, like that it is originating. So based on that, the calculations was made, and it seems to be 0.3 kg per day. And physical components was analyzed by means of separating each component of the solid waste, whatever that is collected from the that is collected as a sample from the SU University quarters, and the weight of individual component was taken, and it is made percentage calculations to the total weight, whatever the solid waste samples that was collected from that particular locality. So when it was done like that, paper was obtained as 9.45%, plastic was obtained as 10.25%, and silt was obtained as 7.53. So, and metal was obtained as 0.52, rags 1.05, glass 1.02, wood 10.10. As quarters consist of lot of houses, there would be just falling off dry leaves and also dry sticks from that particular trees like that. So that's why this wood content is more in that particular locality. And total organic matter, obviously it will be more such as 60%. So as it is of residential area, so the solid waste sample was collected from the quarters area, that is residential area. Moisture content is about 36.61%, and density is about 443 kg per meter cube. When it comes to the chemical characteristics, whatever the solid waste for which chemical characteristics carried out, carbon percentage was obtained as 11.50 by means of titration method, by means of using different chemicals like FAS like that. Titration was done by means of taking 1 gram of sample. So that was done based upon the standard procedures. So, and nitrogen, when it was analyzed, it is of about 0.6%, and phosphorus, when it is analyzed, it is about 0.49, and carbon to nitrogen ratio was obtained as 19 in this particular waste. And calorific value of different components, that is especially combustible components of that particular solid waste, whatever that is collected from SU University quarters, so was analyzed by means of using bomb calorimeter. So here for wood, it was obtained as 4,658 kilocalories per kg, and for paper it was obtained as 1982 kilocalories per kg, and mixed sample, so it was obtained as 2,146 when it was observed, obviously. So wood consists of a high calorific value when compared to the paper and also the mixed waste. So when it comes to the conclusion, so whatever the solid waste that is generating from the quarters of SU University, so it consists of high composable organic matter and also high calorific value can be obtained, so from this particular solid waste. So recycling solid waste can be subjected to the recycling purpose. So as the solid waste, whatever that is obtained from this particular university, so can be subjected for composting process in order to convert that one into manure, and also as it getting somewhat high calorific value, as the university quarters has a lot of trees, so because of that wood content will also be more, which obviously give high calorific value. So high calorific value can be obtained from this particular solid waste. So, and when comes to the hierarchy, generally reduction at the source itself, so is generally suggested for any municipal solid waste areas. So generation of solid waste can be reduced at the sources when compared to the other methods. So these are the references that I followed.
Okay, madam.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Munilakshmi, madam. I think you have carried out work on physical chemical composition, characteristic residential solid waste, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
And what about why you are in the university hostel? You are in the university. Why you have chosen only the residential areas? What about hostel, canteen?
Yeah, I already done, sir. That work also I already done in previous conference. I had given with respect to the hostels. Yeah, actually that part was total university was divided, and each work was carried out by some people through some people. So collectively I combined further. So actually in the previous conference I had given on hostel solid waste.
Thank you, madam. Thank you, madam, for your very good work and presentation.
Yeah, in fact, Munilakshmi is a regular comer to this icon, and she has people from the hostels, waste management. So that was also good.
I think overall university, if you give the picture, no,
Yes,
that is, I think it is better so that you can give certain conclusions to your university for further recommendation. And
yes,
the
that I
university
will present in
of,
next conference, sir.
solid waste management unit also.
And you know that she is the host of the next conference.
Yeah, next. Okay, next. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Sadhan.
Yes, I have a question. Is it possible to have to?
Please.
Yeah, please.
Okay. Thank you very much for this nice presentation, Professor. My question is about the sampling before characterization. Do you apply a standard method for sampling for waste, municipal or
No, madam.
this,
Actually,
this kind of waste?
Method of quartering can be employed to actually get the sampling for the solid waste generally. So from the quarters, as it is of only 100 houses we have. So particularly from selected houses, I had collected.
Okay, so you used all the all the fractions of the solid waste, or you are doing all the fractions, all the whole fractions you use for the characterization?
20, total from 20 households I had collected sample, madam.
Okay, thank you.
On different days, holidays and also working day, like that also characterized and average was taken in order to get the correct picture of the characteristics.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, madam. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We'll go to next speaker, sir.
Yes, our next speaker is Hudson Samraj.
I will present instant of Hudson Samraj, sir.
Yes.
I am Ramani Kiara, sir.
Yeah, can you open your camera
Okay, sir.
and introduce yourself and start the presentation? So you are also one of the co-authors?
Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead.
Ramani, no? Ramani.
Yes, sir.
Please start, madam.
1 minute. Whether the slide is visible, sir?
No, not yet, madam. Not yet.
Now, sir.
And open and share. Share. Go to share. Share the slides.
Okay, sir. Good afternoon to all. My name is D. Ramani Kiara. I am a master student at...
Your PPT is not open.
1 minute, sir.
So what you can do is you close your file once and
Okay,
then open your PPT first and then share it.
Okay, sir.
Please enter on the-
Now, sir, it's visible, sir.
Yeah, it will come. Yeah, now it's okay.
Good
You
afternoon.
introduce yourself and then start your presentation.
Okay, sir. Good afternoon to all. My name is D. Ramani Kiara. I am a master student at Gandhigram Rural Institute, Deemed University, in the Department of Renewable Energy. I would like to present about conservation of waste cooking oil into biogas. Here the overviews are introduction, objectives, methodology, conclusion, and the reference. Introduction. Every year, a vast amount of waste cooking oil is produced worldwide, reused for biodiesel production. The total number of food enterprises in India is estimated to be 37,175. The total oil production in India is 24.07 million tons per year. In 24.07 million tons of annual production, people are consuming 23 million tons per year. As aforementioned, 3 million tons were retrieved for recycling. The improper dumping of waste cooking oil in the water, consuming this water can cause respiratory damage, liver damage, and increased cancer risk. A lot of cooking oil has been utilized in different phases of cooking in inns, and the vast measures of oil was discarded during the food handling. The oil has been reused in the various areas of a hotels, and the objectives are this paper attempts to carry out the auto gasification of waste vegetable oil to get biogas, which can be used as a fuel. The complex characteristics of waste cooking oil have been conducted and replicated. The waste cooking oil is auto-gasified and it is compensate the LPG use. The vegetable oil can likewise be considered as a possible fuel to substitute non-renewable energy source. Consistently, a tremendous measure of vegetable oil has been delivered for utilization. The creation of vegetable oil has been developing persistently. Overall, came to around 24.07 million metric tons in 2018. So, to diminish the ecological unsafe impacts, the waste cooking oil can be diverted for creating biogas by the gasification cycle. From the 3 million metric vast loads of oil, we could get 11.074 million joules per second energy per day. That is 8 hours of operation. So, in general, we can produce 1.384 megawatts of power each hour utilizing the biogas from waste vegetable. The methods we have used are proximate analysis and thermogravimetric analysis. First one is a proximate analysis. Proximate analysis is a fuel provides the percentage of materials that burns into the gaseous state, that is volatile matter, and into the solid state, that is fixed carbon, and the percentage of inorganic waste material, that is ash, and therefore the fundamental importance of biogas energy is used, and there is a positive relationship between the fixed carbon from the biomass yield, while the volatile content and the ash relatively negatively with yield. And moisture content, one of the most important parameter obtained from the moisture proximate analysis is the moisture content. Highly moisture content tends to reduce the gasifier temperature and consequently the rate of conversion of carbon during the gasification. The oil that is set in the hot air oven is warmed up to 110 degrees Celsius. Henceforth, the moisture associated with the waste cooking oil has disappeared. When it arrives at the 110 degree Celsius temperature and it's cool off for 15 minutes, it is quantified as a W3. And the figure out the proportion of a waste cooking oil is in contrast on W3, and the mass of this sample is associated moisture. And then volatile matter, and the volatile matter have immediately vanished when heated. The waste cooking oil is kept in the muffle furnace, heating up to 450 degrees Celsius with a fixed cover, and the volatile evaporates. The heated container was weighed on scale and mass was noted as W4. These measures of volatile matter present in the waste cooking oil is controlled through the extent of the difference among the mass concerning the container through the extent of the with the oil upon the deliberate mass of W4 to the mass of a waste cooking oil. The volatile matter demonstrate the degree of problems that suddenly vanish while heated to the selected volume. That is the issue in the gas jet fuels. Then ash. Every measures of ash content consistently need not to be exactly the fuel, and it is simple for removal. Following the processing of a volatile matter, put the specimen in the muffle heater at 650 degrees Celsius. The ash is developed by heating in the furnace after the treatment of a volatile matter. This ash is delivered after heating the furnace, and it is masked as a W5. The ash rate is determined by some proportion of difference between the mass of the ash in the container and the mass of the container, including the oil W2 and the oil mass. Here the figure shows the ash leftover after the proximate analysis, and then fixed carbon. After processing the moisture, volatile matter, and the ash content, this is some potent fuel left in the container. This fixed container compresses the carbon for the most of a part, and the fixed carbon is determined by deducting the worth of the.
Can you go for further slides? I think
No, sir,
it
I'm
is
explaining this moisture content, volatile matter, ash, and fixed carbon, sir.
methodology, no? Yeah.
Yes, sir. Fixed carbon is a significant vital fuel left in the furnace after the volatile matter are refined off. For the most part, it compresses carbon. Fixed carbon provide the best conclusion of the heating value. And the next process is a thermogravimetric analysis, that is TGA. Thermogravimetric analysis or thermal gravimetric analysis is the method that the thermal analysis which changes in physical and the chemical properties of a material are being observed as a result of increase in the temperature. The apparatus basically consists of a highly sensitive scale to measure weight changes and a programmable furnace to control the heat up rate of the sample. The TGA measurement is usually performed either as a function of temperature rise with a constant heating rate or the function of time by considering the mass loss and the temperature constant. The process of TGA is the mass of a container is measured and it is taken as a W1 by the digital mass machine. The specimen is, that is a waste cooking oil, is drained into the known mass of the empty container. The container with oil is taken as a W2. The discrepancy between these measurements is perceived as an oil mass. Then TGA curve. TGA curve gives us a weight loss with respect to the temperature increase. As the temperature is increased, the weight percentage decreased due to the different reaction taking place with the increasing the temperature. In the TGA curve, it can be seen that the temperature is increasing. There is a decrease in the weight percent, thus showing the mass is changing continuously due to the thermal treatment. In the TGA curve, the first decomposition starts at the lower temperature and continues up to the higher temperature with the change in the weight percentage. What we have done in TGA processes, the container is taken and it is estimated mass in the wake of emptying the waste vegetable oil into the container and estimated the underlying mass of the samples. Then the sample is put into the buffer furnace and quickly increment temperature in each 10 degrees Celsius and take out of this sample to quantify the mass. The temperature increments up to the 525 degrees Celsius. So the various temperature and the mass of the samples are noted down. From the graph, it is evident that there is a deep, steep decline of oil from 185 degrees Celsius to 505 degrees Celsius temperature, where oil gets dramatically burned, and at the 525 degrees temperature, only the ash is left over. In the kinetics, after the experimentation, the rate constant is defined, and using the rate constant, the amount of oil left at the particular temperature can be identified. Here the graph represents the theoretical weight reduction in gram versus the experimental weight reduction of the oil. And then conclusion, the waste cooking oil is procured from hotels, street food vendors have been investigated, and the producer gas from the waste cooking oil can be used as a substituent for LPG. The proximate analysis inspects this portrayal with respect to the gas, thermogravimetric analysis and the kinetics. With the proximate investigation, we find that the volatile matter being in the oil is high, so the gasification happens easily, and some volatilized gas is utilized. From the TGA, obviously the oil gets burned absolutely at the specific temperature, and the small proportion of ash is left. The complex attribute of waste vegetable cooking oil have been led and replicated. The waste vegetable cooking oil is autogasified and it can be compensate LPG use. The producer gases created during the autogasification can be used as a fuel. So it is presumed that biogas removed by gasification of waste oil can be utilized as a alternate of LPG. And these are the references. Next, ladies.
Thank you, Ramani.
Yes, sir.
Ramani,
Thank you.
MSc student, really the very good work you have carried out. I think this is a very, very important work, particularly the lot of the cooking oil is generating in the
Yes, sir.
urban and rural area. So that can be further properly we can utilized for sustainable management as well as the conversion of biogas. I think, isn't it? So I think this is a very good work. Maybe
Yes, sir.
thank you for your presentation and
Thank you, sir.
I appreciate proper very good work you have carried out. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for your attention, sir.
Any questions, sir, in this topic? Any questions in this topic?
Sir, I have an idea.
Yes, sir.
I have an idea. This waste cooking oil can it still be as it is? It can be used as a product for number one, agriculture directly. That will give a boost to agriculture. Second, for running the vehicle as it is.
Sir, I didn't get you, sir. Please repeat again, sir.
This waste cooking oil can be used in agriculture as it is, as a fertilizer or as whatever nutrient, anything. Second, it can be used for running the vehicle, especially a biofuel. They are now talking about. This waste cooking oil, it's an alternative for biofuel, as well as it can be used in agriculture.
Yeah. Sir, some of the experiments they have already carried out in this line, particularly waste oil can be used as a biofuel, particularly for vehicles.
Correct, sir.
Isn't it? I think.
And even one or two trials have been shown also, sir. It has done in only Mysore, Bengaluru itself, sir, not elsewhere.
Yeah, it is there. It is there.
It has been done by our own very good friends.
Yeah, it is there. It is. I think many of the farmers also they have used.
I myself have used it, sir.
Yeah, very good, very good.
I have used all the types of so-called waste. You tell me any waste, I will use it. That is the thing.
Yeah. Thank you, sir, for your suggestion. Thank you. Any other? Saurya, no? Saurya?
Any other thing?
Sir, I would like to request you, if there is no other question.
So we'll go to next. Thank you.
I would like to request you to present the chair summary, please, in a few minutes.
Yeah.
And conclude the session.
Yes.
Thank you.
I was asked to give some opinion. No chance for me now.
It is there, sir. It is there. I think after the presenters.
Yes, now it is the end.
Okay. Now you can give your conclusions or your suggestions.
So, whatever the method is used.
Okay.
In fact, this so-called waste, when they are converted into this for agriculture, especially the semi-liquid and liquid waste, which are polluting the underground water and rivers, especially see you talk of any waste, any industry, any agricultural industry, anything, even chemical industries waste, that can be converted and made. And we have used all types of, including coal. We converted that coal into utility product, coal waste, especially the waste that comes after the boiler or the furnace, that we were able to do. Even that, anything that smells bad, that is the medicine.
So that is called environmental solutions, no? That is called environmental solutions.
That is the solution. That is the solution.
Of course. That is what every researcher, every scientist is striving to work on solid waste management and pollution converted into a useful resource.
Yes.
So
And this, when we do this,
yeah,
it will be a wonder. But only my question is, who will give an opportunity like that tea garden gave me? That is the question.
Okay, sir. Now over to Sadhan Kumar, sir. Professor Sadhan Kumar, sir, please.
Good. It was a very vibrating session.
Yeah.
At the very beginning, we had some problem to start, but so Narayana has taken up and he made a very good venture, and the session was very effective. And I was also present sometime in this session. And I saw the researchers who made a very good presentation.
Yes.
Both the review presentation as well as the research one.
Yes.
And it's good that we could make most of the presentation could be made in this session, hardly one or two. But you know that online presentation is always a challenge. Specific to the availability of network and other things concerned when there is different countries together working. But however, I thank all of you for your very nice presentation. And of course, there are a lot of areas where we can improve much. On the other hand, there are a number of presentations which has a very good strength. And I was referring to Mr. Mahadeva. He was referring to some of the points which are really very interesting.
Yes.
And these are really the points to be concerned by everybody.
Yes.
Hudson, Muni Lakshmi, Sarang, Parameshwari. I was there during the presentation, and of course, I could not see the presentation of Maya. Maya possibly has.
Maya not attended, I think.
Yeah, because I believe that she had a presentation yesterday. That's why she did not come here. The same presentation may be. However, the session was good, and there are a lot of interaction among the members who were joined here. And I thank once again the chair and all the presenters who are here. But I request all of you to open your camera so that our secretariat can make a very good photo of all of you. And second thing, you please send your feedback for your certificate. The feedback has been given by our secretariat into the chat box. So please note it down and send a fill in and submit. And I can see Thomas. Thomas, you are from which place?
Germany, Leipzig.
Okay, I see. So you also presented, no?
Yes, I presented.
Yeah. You are from Emden or Rostock?
No, from Leipzig. Leipzig, Diepstedt.
Okay. That's great.
Yes.
That's great. Thank you very much. And Hudson, what is your name? Your name is not displayed. Yeah? Okay, microphone is off. However, so that's good. And we have 2 more days to complete our conference. So I believe that more input from this conference will be available. And I request all of you, including our friend from Hong Kong, I can see Professor Dhanadakanta Mishra to be here. And you know, one more thing I am requesting you, that there are some issues with respect to the link is concerned. So in the morning, whenever you will join, please look into your email, whether there is any change in the link or not. Because today there was a problem in Hall 3, so we immediately made the email to all the delegates so that they can join, and I'm very happy that the Hall 3 program from the morning is going on very well with number of attendees. So thanks once again. So Dhanada, do you want to say something?
Yeah, sir. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Professor Ghosh. I'm
Yeah.
happy to attend the sessions. Unfortunately, I'm not able to participate very actively because I'm at work and doesn't have time off. But looking forward to the next session, which I'll be chairing. And thank you for the wonderful effort you have put together. Very tough, very, very hard to do this in these times. But congratulations.
Yeah, and Thomas, do you want to say something?
Sadhan Kumar. Shall I, sir?
Just 1 minute.
Yeah.
I'm asking Thomas to say something.
Yeah, thank you for having the opportunity to present some of our research here in Leipzig in Germany. Well, it's a very interesting conference. It's interesting, all the sessions, different sessions in the halls.
Thank you. And those who are interested to work in the working group of this ICON SWM, ISWM, AW, you can write to us so that for the next conference we can work together as a working group, because we have already country-specific working group in 41 countries. So if you from different countries, including India, are interested to work in the working group and do research together, collaborative research, you can write to us. With this, thanks once again to all. I'm handing over to the chair.
May I? A few words, sir. May I have a few words?
Yeah, it is now your floor. You are the boss. You are the king of this station now.
Yeah. Thank you very much, sir. Sadhan Kumar, sir, for your opportunity you have given for chairing the session in this international conference. Maybe I think such type of conferences is need of the hour, particularly on solid waste management. So here the solid waste management issues are increasing, particularly at present because of more of industrialization, more of the agricultural production, as well as the urbanization and various other developmental process. So in this connection, each and every area which we have to follow, we have to work on the sustainable management of solid waste as well as energy resource recovery. So therefore, maybe such type of the seminars and conferences may be very helpful in future for giving solutions to the overall environmental management, particularly solid waste management. So in this session, I think there are 8 candidates, the participants, researchers, they have presented very well, pertaining to waste to energy resource recovery. I think all the papers are very interesting and very informative, and most of the research work is very updated and application oriented. I think this is how what is called as the conclusions, what they have made, that can be further recommended for utilized for the application of in some of the urban areas as well as industrial areas are also in the industrial and the agricultural fields. So therefore, I'm very happy for all the presenters who have presented very well, and thank you for giving me an opportunity. And once again, I thank each and every participants for your what is your presentation. Thank you very much, Sadhan Kumar sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
See you all in the next session at 3:15 or in other sessions. Okay, bye-bye. Thanks for your participation.
Thank you, sir.
Bye, sir. Thank you.
Bye, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.